people say it is Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister in waiting, and that he could be waiting forever. Can you shed some light on when do you think you will take power?
Politics is full of cynicism, but as far as the transition is concerned, things are quite settled. The ruling party coalition has made the agreement and understanding will be observed. And I don't think it's an issue. It's an issue of speculation. We can stop it, but it's not only my position or Mahathir's, but I think the ruling coalition is stuck to a decision, and there's no sign that they're changing that.
How long are you willing to wait? Mahathir says 2 years, 3 years. He even said maybe. Is May 2020 the date to be looking out for?
There's an understanding that it should be around that time, but I don't think I should be too petty about the exact month. But there is this understanding that he will resign at the appropriate time, and I should assume.
Dr. Ashri, investors need to know. They're waiting to invest in Malaysia, but without any clarity, it is difficult to make long-term decisions.
Now, let me be more assertive on this. Firstly, for the investors, is the fundamentals is strong. A clear economic direction and policy, which you are trying after this such initial turbulence. And the issue of transition is also quite clear. I mean, I've met many of them asking whether it will happen. I said there's no reason to think otherwise. So there is clear, definite decision being made, and I think we should move on. And we're not talking about a new government. We're talking about a transition to a new leader, observing the same broad policies, but more assertive on certain issues, of course.
Before we talk about the policies, can you categorically say that you will be Prime Minister 100%? There have been names floating around, Azmin Ali, who is your deputy, also Mahathir's son, Mukriz. Can you categorically say you will be in power?
Well, as far as the leadership, the decision of Pakatan Harapan leaders, coalition, the understanding prior to elections, the consensus announced and reached by the coalition, they're settled. There's no any sign of any party introducing or promoting or lobbying for other names. This does not stop individuals with ambition, with their own designs. This is, to me, quite irrelevant. Whether it has been discussed, whether it has given some legitimacy, the answer is no.
What have you been doing to prepare to be the Prime Minister?
I spend hours weekly in my office, the transition office, to listen to reports, to meet ministers, to meet public servants, to meet members of the private sector, listen to them. And it's more a learning curve, again, to understand the issues and go down to the public in town hall meetings and public meetings to listen to their grievances, their frustrations. Of course, there is this rising expectations because, spectacular sort of a victory due to lots of promises. And of course, we cannot able to deliver in a short pace of time. But we are determined. There has been changes in the judicial reform, parliamentary reform, media, but of course it's not complete, and particularly in the economy. I think now we have to focus, make sure that the economics and the economic remain the fundamental issue and policy.
Malaysians are unhappy. There's economic malaise. There has been a lack of reform, they say, bold reforms. When you come to power, what policies can be expected? How different will they be from the current government?
The criticism, it differs between the urban elites who like to see the reform in terms of institutional reform, governance, which I share, but also realize the vast majority of our population, the B40, the rural folks, the hinterland, they would expect, and even the urban poor, again back to bread and butter issues, which means the country must refocus itself in making sure that we remain attractive to investments, domestic and foreign. Whatever policies, adjustments required must be done, because only through growth that we can ensure a fair distribution of wealth.
Talk to us about shared prosperity. Malaysia has talked about wanting to achieve shared prosperity. How will that be achieved?
We have seen the new economic policy and its relative success in terms of social mobility. But we're also seeing grinding poverty. In fact, it is of course of grave concern lately with this Ashton United Nations report that suggests that the poverty, real poverty, is far higher than what was recorded by the government. And I think we should take an open view, welcome this, relook at it, the parameters, the standards that we have imposed in the past or decided upon, and I think move on. Grinding poverty is a problem. Urban poverty is a recently or a new phenomenon which we need to address. Then there's of course gross inequality. It's not only inter-race, but it's also intra, the very rich and the very poor. And so the policy adjustments must be sure to allow, to propel the economy, but at the same time to be equally concerned about the problems of the poor. Not in terms of just policies. I'm not too keen about broad rhetoric on policies, because everybody can talk about it. But we must ensure that policies are directed and can really ensure in terms of minimum wage, in terms of the welfare of the rural folks, the fishermen, because the gap between the price of fish in the fishing village to the centers can be startling, 200%, 150%. This is ridiculous, and the system cannot and should not condone this.